These 14 ideas might just change how you see waste and your own backyard. Welcome to Nailed It Now. Today's video is all about 14 creative garden ideas using paint cans, lids, and plates. Timestamps are below. Use them as you like. Got thoughts? Drop them in the comments. This isn't a how-to. It's an inspiration. Feel free to reimagine these ideas using what you already have. I'm not just making videos. I'm building a dream with my family beside me. Every like, comment, or sub helps keep that dream alive. Thanks for being here. Thanks for seeing me. Just after sunset, when the sky folds into lavender and the wind stirs with the scent of cooling stone and thyme, a quiet enchantment begins to rise from the garden's edge. Here, where gravel crunches underfoot and old vines stretch along a time-worn fence, a path of light gently awakens. The lanterns are simple, humble paint cans, once rusted and tossed aside, now painted in soft garden tones: sage green, dusty blue, buttery cream. Stacked in gentle towers and mounted on short wooden stakes or slender steel rods, they stand like glowing sculptures along the winding path. Each one bears hand-punched designs: stars, moons, leaves, and spirals, cut with care and lit from within by flickering LED candles. Their patterns shimmer across the gravel, shifting with each passing breeze. Near the bend in the walkway, 3 cans perch on a mossy stone slab. This tower is different, unpainted, naturally weathered. Rust softens the metal's edge, and the cuts tell quieter stories. A dandelion in seed, constellations crossing one side, a crescent moon cradling the flame inside. Around it, marigolds bloom in deep orange and gold, their warmth echoing the lantern's glow. A bench nearby invites a pause, to watch, to breathe, to simply be. And beyond, near the heart of the garden, a wider scene unfolds beneath a pergola hung with fairy lights and wisteria. More towers rise in reds, yellows, and turquoise, each pierced with its own rhythm, swirls like wind, petals in bloom, branching leaf veins. As darkness deepens, their light casts moving shadows across stone pavers, making the whole patio feel as though it's gently breathing. None of it is perfect, and that's what makes it lovely. The chipped paint, the uneven edges, the rust that curls slightly at the rims. It all speaks of hands at work, of evenings spent quietly creating, of lanterns born from what once was scrap. A drill, a bit of imagination, and the willingness to play, that's all it takes. So if ever you find an old can, don't throw it away. Picture instead a soft evening breeze, a garden path bathed in handmade starlight, and the joy of crafting something that glows long after the sun goes down. There's a certain magic in the way morning sunlight slips into quiet corners, as if it knows where the softest stories are kept. On one such narrow patio, hemmed in by 2 old brick walls and a quiet sky above, something charming has taken root: tall, spiraling towers made not of stone or steel, but of humble, repurposed paint cans. Stacked slightly off-center, each can leans gently from the one beneath it, giving the structure a playful, sculptural rhythm, like herbs dancing toward the light. They're painted in calming, earthy tones: faded clay, mossy green, dusty rose. Hand-lettered chalkboard tags read like poetry: basil, thyme, oregano. And the herbs, full and vibrant, spill over the rims with fragrant life. Around the base, terracotta pots brimming with zinnias, parsley, and ivy pressed close like guests at a quiet garden gathering. The first sun of the day kisses everything golden, and for a moment, the patio breathes peace. Elsewhere, tucked in a wooden corner softened by dappled trellis light, another tower leans lovingly into a garden shelf. 3 cans, chalk-painted in mint green and sky blue, carry a harvest of their own. Crisp mint at the top, cherry tomatoes glowing red in the middle, and tiny peppers just turning with spice below. A weathered trowel rests nearby, a watering can ready with morning dew. Here, the day begins with intention, in the gentle rhythm of tending and tasting. But perhaps the most whimsical of all is found higher still, on an airy urban balcony where cans in cheerful yellows and turquoise blues cling to a metal grid fence, blooming with laughter. Lavender sways beside geraniums and nasturtiums spill out like confetti. Below, a folding chair waits quietly, its cushions sun-faded, beside a cup of tea untouched but not forgotten. Petals drift down like small reminders that time, too, can bloom when given space. None of this came from grand plans. Just paint cans rescued from sheds, a few gentle coats of color, and the courage to try. With some wire, a metal rod, or a sturdy grid, anything vertical becomes a canvas for growing. It's proof that gardens don't need acres, only a bit of light, a splash of color, and a heart willing to make something bloom where there once was nothing. And so, on mornings like this, when the day is still young and the air smells of mint and earth, it's easy to believe that joy grows best in small places, especially the ones you make with your own 2 hands. As twilight tiptoes across the garden, and the last of the day's color sinks softly into the soil, the fence begins to glow, not with electricity or wires, but with stories lit from within. Along a backdrop of whitewashed wood and time-worn cedar slats, old paint can lids have found their second calling. Once tossed aside, they now bloom like shy metal flowers, each one gently hammered into a curved shape, then painted in tones of terracotta, matte black, and olive green. Mounted in staggered rows with sturdy iron hooks, they hold their place with quiet dignity. In their centers, candlelight flickers through drilled patterns of spirals and starbursts, casting shadows like constellations across the fence. A few are fitted with solar puck lights, their glow lasting just long enough to guide the night's gentle hush. Closer to the heart of the garden, one silver lid rests against a sun-warmed brick wall, its dome pierced with floral cutouts. The rim carries scratches like whispers of its past life, and the tea light held at its center burns low and steady on a rusted washer wrapped in copper wire. Behind it, floral shadows bloom softly against the wall. Vines climb in lazy curves nearby, while scattered petals mingle with moss below a galvanized watering can, as if the garden itself had stopped to watch the light. Beneath the sconces, planters of dusty miller, calendula, and trailing ivy fill the air with texture and scent. A wooden bench, draped with a wool blanket, waits for evening visitors. Not far off, a folding chair holds a pair of floral garden gloves and a set of tools, ready for tomorrow's tending. Overhead, warm globe lights sway gently in the evening breeze, linking everything together like the final thread in a patchwork quilt of comfort and creativity. It's remarkable, really, what can be made with what's already in hand. Old lids, rusted wire, spare glass jars. A bit of time, a patient eye, and the willingness to see possibility where others see scrap. The sconces don't shout. They glow. They remind us that beauty needn't be loud or expensive. It can be handmade, imperfect, and entirely one's own. And in that soft circle of candlelight, as dusk deepens and quiet wraps around the garden like a shawl, you might find yourself thinking there's still room, on your own fence, in your own space, for a little light made by you. There's a gentle joy in discovering beauty where brokenness once lived. Along a quiet wooden fence in a humble backyard, sunlight filters through soft leaves, and a mosaic begins to glow, bright with color, story, and the careful touch of hands that believe in second chances. The fence itself is unassuming, its cedar slats weathered by years of wind and rain. But stitched across its surface is a vibrant wave of color, made entirely of old plates and chipped pottery. Each shard finds its place in flowing ribbons of turquoise, ivory, pale yellow, and sky blue. Whole floral saucers are tucked in among the fragments, their hand-painted roses and birds now part of something larger, something that moves like a song caught on a breeze. In the center of one panel, a dinner plate with dainty pink blooms becomes the sun. From it radiate jagged, joyful beams of yellow and white tile, set into warm terracotta grout. Tiny tufts of moss begin to gather in the cracks, softening the pattern into something living. Bees hum gently nearby, dipping into the golden centers of coreopsis and alyssum at the base, while climbing vines frame the piece in green. Nearby, a child's spade leans against the raised beds, boxes made from reclaimed wood and black crates, each one brimming with vegetables, romaine stretching tall, cherry tomatoes ripening in clusters, and the sweet scent of lemon balm in the breeze. A painted sign tucked among the mint reads, "Grow in pieces," a quiet anthem for the whole space. Another mosaic flows down the fence like a lazy river, its soft curves cradling bits of china and pottery in every shape. The colors shift like memory, seafoam, cream, blush, and jade. In one section, a single broken teacup handle curls out from the wall like a hidden smile. Below it, a green trowel waits beside a patch of newly turned soil. And though it may not be symmetrical or polished, the garden feels deeply whole. Every crack in the plates is filled with care. Every color chosen not just for beauty, but for the way it speaks to what came before. It's a place that reminds us, not all things need to be new to be loved. That from the fragments of something lost, we can build something that shines. And maybe, just maybe, the fence you've passed by 100 times is waiting to bloom too. In color, in story, in pieces gently placed by your own two hands. There's a certain music that only lives in quiet places, where the wind hums low through leaves and light lingers on wood and metal with reverence. In a shaded corner beneath a pergola, the breeze catches something old made new, a wind chime born from forgotten things. Suspended from a wooden beam, the chime begins with a seafoam green paint can, its surface mottled with age and softened by gentle sanding. Delicate shapes, stars and leaves, have been punched through the metal in careful rows, letting pinpricks of sunlight dance across the planks below. From the base hang forks and spoons, rings and rusted chains, all strung on twine worn soft by weather. When they sway, they sing, not sharply, but with a melodic clink that seems to echo the tempo of growing herbs and summer afternoons. Just steps away, a second chime twirls from a wrought iron hook on a tiny balcony. It's raw metal, unpainted but proud, with a butterfly etched in perforated wings. Below it hang keys, some brass, others iron, accompanied by old washers and a tea strainer that spins in the wind like a dancer. Behind it, clematis vines curl upward, their violet blooms nodding in approval. An open gardening book rests nearby, its pages fluttering beside a sun-faded cushion, and you can almost hear the words through the chime's lullaby. Further along a gravel path, the sun begins to dip low. A trio of wind chimes sway gently under a pergola lit with the last warmth of day. Each paintcan glows in its own hue, burnt orange, sandy beige, and deep lake blue. From beneath, copper wire spirals down in elegant curls, holding spoons and beads that glint and catch the fading light. Lavender bushes sway beneath them, sending up their sleepy scent. A mug of tea sits on a nearby stone ledge, half forgotten but still warm, proof of a pause, a moment taken, a little peace reclaimed. None of these chimes were bought. They were gathered, made, discovered. A tin from a shelf in the garage. A spoon too bent for soup. Keys whose locks no longer exist. Together, they ring with memory, and their song is one of transformation, of turning cast-offs into music. And perhaps that's the lesson hanging quietly above a pot of mint. Beauty is not always in the perfect, but in what we choose to honor. In what we allow the wind to touch and what we give the chance to sing. In the hush of an early summer morning, when the dew still clings and birds speak softly to the breeze, a simple wooden fence blooms into something extraordinary. Not with petals, but with plate and metal, transformed by gentle hands and an artist's whim. Each flower along the fence tells a quiet story. There's a blue and white porcelain dish, rimmed in gold, resting proud at the center of silver can lids shaped like rounded petals, delicate yet strong. Its glaze catches the morning light like still water, while nasturtium vines at its feet stretch up as if in greeting, their orange blossoms echoing joy. The backdrop, a cedar plank turned gray with time, cradles this creation like a memory long held. A few steps farther, the fence blossoms wider. Sculptures, some bright, others muted, gather in playful clusters. One flower glows with soft pink, its center a scalloped dish edged in rust, framed by curved lid petals the color of old blush. Another beams with mustard yellow and cream, layers built from lids with gentle dents, proud of their past lives. A turquoise bloom, patched in spots, stands tall as though mid-laugh. Below them, a flowerbed plays along with the palette. Purple violas, white snapdragons, and silver-frosted dusty Miller mirror the colors above. Their scent rises in the sun, grounding the whimsy with nature's grounding hum. A weathered wooden crate, half filled with hand tools and a pot of dusty lavender, sits close by, proof that beauty often springs from work and reuse, not expense. Farther along, the fence turns into a joyful mural of motion. Plates of all sorts, elegant with roses, plain with age, dotted with ivy or lined with blue, form the faces of a floral parade. Their lids, now petals in every color from sky to clay, fan around them like sunbursts. Some have stems made of bent forks, others with leaves cut from metal scraps, and a few with little buttons fixed at their hearts. The gravel path winding past crunches softly underfoot, lined with blooming thyme and flecks of violet phlox. The whole scene feels like a secret from a storybook, discovered and brought to life with nothing but scraps, soil, and soul. In this garden, the line between the wild and the made blurs beautifully. The flowers do not wilt, nor do they strive. They simply are, quietly radiant, gently reused, endlessly blooming. And as you walk by, you might just feel the urge to gather an old plate, a few lids, and bring a little blossom to your own back fence. Not for show, but for the soft joy of making something bloom where before there was only wood. In the hush between morning and midday, when shadows are soft and the air smells like beginnings, a tiny corner of the yard comes alive, not with noise, but with growth. Nestled against a quiet gray fence softened by ivy, a vertical herb garden rises gently, painted in tones the sky might blush with: soft mint, sandy clay, and lavender gray. The structure is simple: a wooden frame, sturdy and forgiving, holding rows of paint cans once filled with color and now brimming with life. Each can is tilted ever so slightly, fixed into place with care, allowing the herbs to spill forward like laughter. Chalkboard labels, scrawled in a loving hand, name each plant as though they were old friends: mint, rosemary, chives. Their scents mingle in the air, sharp and sweet, earthy and clean, creating a perfume richer than any perfume bottle could hold. Nearby, a metal watering can catches morning light, its spout speckled with droplets. A pair of gloves rests beside it on a folded cloth, and a straw hat waits patiently on the bricks, as if the gardener has just stepped inside for a moment, leaving behind only a sense of presence and peace. Just down the path, another wall leans into the day, a weathered wooden pallet adorned with aged paint cans. These bear the marks of their former lives, scuffed branding, sun-faded colors, dents that tell of tools dropped and projects finished. Now, each one holds basil, dill, oregano, or sage, lush and full, their greens spilling over the rims in quiet rebellion. Little wooden markers stand in the soil like tiny flags, announcing the herbs in names handwritten with care. And in a brick-lined alley between buildings, a vertical trellis hums with vibrant life. Rows of upcycled paint cans, some soft gray, others rust red or eucalyptus green, form a rhythmic patchwork of foliage. Herbs burst forth with confidence. Thai basil with its deep green leaves, cilantro reaching out as if to greet you, parsley curling in green curls like laughter held in leaves. A wooden stool sits nearby, a coffee mug resting on top, an open invitation to pause. There's no grand gesture here, just the simple beauty of reuse, of growing something fresh where there once was only wall or waste. These gardens ask for little, just a few cans, a bit of sun, some soil, and patience. And in return, they offer abundance, scent, flavor, stillness. In spaces where nothing seemed to grow, green now climbs. And in that quiet act, there is hope, delicate, rooted, and deeply alive. In a tucked-away patch of garden, where the hum of city life fades into the rustle of leaves and the flutter of wings, a bird bath stands like a secret offering. It's not grand or store-bought, but made from pieces once part of another life. An old candlestick, ivory and chipped with grace, holding a vintage plate whose rim whispers in blue flowers. Beneath the low branches of a plum tree, the plate rests calmly, cradling water that mirrors the sky above and the blooms below, golden marigolds, purple salvia, and the delicate sway of alyssum. A goldfinch, bright as morning, perches on the edge. It dips its beak gently, and the ripples it leaves behind are like echoes of birdsong. Droplets scatter into the air, catching sunlight in mid-fall, like tiny blessings. A few steps away, another kind of wonder rises from the flower bed. Plates and bowls, once stacked in kitchen cupboards, are now assembled in a graceful tier, delicate, floral, chipped in places but strong in their second life. Anchored by a slim steel rod, they form a sculpture both practical and poetic. The top bowl cradles fresh water, the middle, river stones and fallen petals. Bees hover close, lured by the lavender. A robin skitters nearby on mulch softened by time and rain, its head tilted in curiosity. A sign pokes cheerfully from the soil, Bird Cafe, painted by hand with the carefree joy of a child. At the garden's edge, a wrought iron plant stand, ornate with rust and charm, holds yet another reclaimed plate, its green ivy pattern faded by years and weather. Set snugly within the iron ring, it gathers rainwater and moonlight. A sparrow arrives, flutters and dances in a shallow splash, wings catching the last gold of the day. Behind it, cosmos nod in rhythm, and fairy lights blink softly to life like stars. Nearby, a pair of garden boots sits under a wooden bench, as if someone has just stepped out to watch the show. These bird baths are not polished. They are not perfect, but they belong, woven into the rhythm of a garden that grows not only vegetables and flowers, but stories too. With every plate and bowl repurposed, a bit of the past is brought into the present, and a quiet invitation is made to the birds and to us to slow down, to create with what we have. to make room for the flutter of wings and the glimmer of water, and to know that beauty often is simply a matter of noticing. Sometimes, the most charming corners of a garden are the ones where nothing matches, but everything belongs. At the edge of a tiny yard, under the long shadows of early morning, a modest bed of green stretches skyward, lettuce ruffled like aprons, baby kale with dew still cupped in its crinkles, and bok choy catching the first flicker of sun. Surrounding them, a circle of repurposed paint can lids rises like a scalloped halo from the soil. Each one is slightly different, some rusted into a rich sienna patina, others brushed with faded pastels, fern green, dusty coral, sky-washed cream. They stand shoulder to shoulder, their arcs creating a rhythm as natural as breath. Beside the bed, a watering can leans gently on its side, dented but dignified. A pair of well-worn leather gloves rests nearby, the fingers curled inward as if still holding soil. Everything feels used, but nothing feels spent. There's a particular beauty in giving things another life. In another patch, lids are pressed snug into the mulch, framing an herb garden with rosemary spiking tall and thyme tumbling low. Calendula blooms in a cheerful glow, drawing bees with its golden cheer. The lids here are less colorful but just as expressive, each carrying a story told in scratches and splatters, drips of old paint and the soft warps of time. Sunlight slips between branches overhead, dappling the lids and making them shine like old coins uncovered in earth. And just a few steps away, tucked along a white picket fence, a row of pastel-painted lids turns a small flower bed into something quietly magical. They rise like petals from the ground, mint green, soft blush, ivory cream, and encircle a tumble of cosmos and nasturtiums that spill over like laughter. Between the edging, small solar lights wait patiently for nightfall. A cat stretches languidly on a stone path, eyelids heavy, tail twitching in dreams. These lids were never meant for this. But here, planted with care and curiosity, they have found a second purpose. One that honors the hand that placed them and the earth that holds them. They whisper a gentle reminder, even the discarded can become delightful, and the smallest spaces can hold the deepest satisfaction. Perhaps all it takes is a moment of quiet, a tin can lid, and the willingness to imagine a different kind of garden edge. As the sun slips behind the rooftops and the sky softens into velvet, the garden begins to glow with its own quiet magic. Winding along the edge of a gravel path, a trail of old paint cans has found new purpose. They no longer hold pigment or promise walls of color, but now cradle something softer, light itself. Each can, painted in dusty hues of sage, cream, and twilight blue, stands on a wooden post nestled among marigolds, lavender, and salvia. Their surfaces are punctured by careful hands, patterns of stars, vines, and tiny leaves letting the light pour out in pinpricks and dapples. When the wind stirs, those lights flicker gently, like fireflies caught in a dance. Tucked near the stone path, one can stand alone. Its tin body, weathered by time, still wears traces of forest green beneath a rust-kissed patina. Wildflowers have been drilled into its skin, and the golden strands of fairy lights tucked inside curl and stretch like spun sunbeams. Their glow escapes in delicate flickers, casting blooms of light onto the gravel below. Around its base, time creeps contentedly, and a ceramic mushroom stands as if guarding the moment. The scene hums with stillness, as if the garden is holding a secret. Further down the border, more lanterns sway from shepherd's hooks, wrought iron and curved with grace. They dangle above blossoms of red dianthus and blue lobelia, their hand-punched holes telling quiet stories. A spiral, a wave, a wandering line of stars. Light spills through each, casting lacy shadows on the mulch and flowers below. And there, just beyond, a garden bench waits. A teacup cools beside an open notebook, its pages fluttering gently in the breeze, half-written thoughts paused in favor of this unfolding twilight. In this handmade sanctuary, nothing shouts. Every glow is a whisper. Every repurposed can is an invitation to pause, to breathe, to let the day end slowly and with care. There is beauty here, born not from perfection, but from intention, from rusty tin and gentle hands, from a belief that light can be shaped and shared. Try it yourself, perhaps. One old can, a handful of fairy lights, and the soft courage to make something lovely. In the still hush of a narrow garden nook, light plays gently against painted wood and porcelain. A pale plank wall, once plain and utilitarian, now hums with subtle magic. A cluster of vintage plates, delicate with age, their rims kissed with faded roses and trailing vines, has been transformed into mirrors. Each one, lovingly hollowed at the center and fitted with reflective glass, now dangles on simple jute cords from brass hooks. The mirrors catch and scatter the light, bouncing reflections across the ferns below and painting soft glimmers on the white bench nestled nearby. A quilted cushion rests there, inviting pause, while zinnias sway behind it, caught in the mirror's quiet glance. Just beyond, in a narrow alley where herb baskets hang from rough gray fencing, a single plate mirror catches the eye. Its rim is soft ivory, edged in faint gold. Suspended from a worn leather strap, it gleams with modest charm. Wildflowers are tucked into the knot above it, their tiny petals a reminder that even in the smallest spaces, beauty insists on blooming. Reflected within the mirror is a burst of calendula and a shy sliver of trellis, half hidden beneath creeping green. Around the corner, where sunlight slips between homes, an old pergola post holds a playful patchwork of hanging mirrors. The plates are mismatched, some mint green, others cream or gently chipped at the edge, but they dance in harmony, suspended like notes on a breeze. Their polished centers reflect slices of garden life, the joyful spin of a child's pinwheel, tomatoes climbing in the sun, a tea towel fluttering from the line like a white sail. Below them, clusters of basil and marjoram spill from weathered enamel pots, filling the air with their tender scent. This is no grand garden, but a gathered space made larger by reflection and care. Here, mirrors do more than show. They amplify, they echo, they open up the sky a little wider. They turn shadows into shimmer, walls into windows. And perhaps you too have a few old plates tucked away, a flea market find, a forgotten set with stories in its glaze. Let them hang. Let them catch the light. Let them make small spaces feel infinite, and ordinary moments feel just a bit enchanted. The hush of late afternoon brings a soft golden stillness, the kind that lingers on the backs of your hands and in the spaces between leaves. In one quiet corner of the garden, there sits a bench, not grand, not perfect, but made with such care it feels like it grew from the earth itself. Its legs, once forgotten paint cans, now rise proudly in muted coats of sage green, terracotta, and charcoal. Some still bear faint smudges of color from past lives, whispering stories of rooms once refreshed and projects long done. But here, they begin again. The wooden planks that stretch across their tops are worn and welcoming, sanded smooth but left honest, knotted, weathered, full of grain and grit. Beneath, the cans double as drawers and cubbies, holding all manner of garden treasure: a coiled rope of twine, a rusted hand trowel, gloves curled like sleeping hands. A pair of boots rest on a woven mat, their toes still caked with yesterday's soil, and beside them, a watering can waits patiently, ready to tip cool silver over thirsty roots. At each end of the bench, cans have been opened wide and transformed into planters. Lettuce leaves curl and stretch toward the sun, and cheerful pansies nod in purple and white. The scent of rosemary and lavender wafts in from a nearby bench, where another oak slab is anchored by equally seasoned cans. A wool blanket lies folded on its side, as if someone just stepped away to fetch tea. Even in stillness, this space feels lived in, used, loved, and deeply rooted in rhythm. Toward the back, a third nook glows beneath early evening lights. Ivy clings to the fence, threading upward with quiet persistence, and the fire pit nearby crackles softly as night begins to gather its cloak. Here, too, the cans rise in support, this time holding thyme and nasturtiums, their blooms reaching like lanterns into the dusk. Their bright petals hum gently in the firelight, a contrast to the mellow tones of wood and metal. These benches, stitched from scraps and seasons, are more than places to sit. They are gathering points of tools, of thoughts, of tiny conversations between gardener and earth. Each element, reclaimed, reused, reborn, reminds us that what we already have might be enough. That beauty lies not in matching sets, but in mismatched efforts made with heart. So if you have a few empty cans and a quiet spot of your own, perhaps there's a seat waiting to be built. One where you'll rest muddy boots, sip something warm, and listen to the hum of bees just beyond the grapevine. It's funny how the most enchanting corners of a garden are often the ones least expected, quiet places where forgotten things are given a second voice. Tucked beneath the generous shade of an old tree, I stumbled upon a trio of standing sculptures, totem poles, really, though no ordinary ones. They stood like guardians of the border bed, rising in soft, uneven rhythms from clusters of echinacea and black-eyed Susans, each crafted entirely from old ceramic plates. There were no rules to their order, no perfection in their form. One pole bore the gentle pastels of peach, mint, and faded ivory. Another deepened into cool aquas and mossy greens. The third was solemn and elegant, rising only with scalloped white china and embossed edges. Each plate was separated by upturned bowls or stubby sections of copper pipe, and the whole structure was threaded with a rod of rebar anchored deep, as if it had always belonged there. Birds landed lightly at the top, resting for a moment before flitting away. Elsewhere, in the corner of a raised bed buzzing with zinnias and bees, a smaller totem reached half their height but nonetheless in charm. Cracked saucers and chipped plates with golden rims stacked together like puzzle pieces from different lives. Delicate teacups sat in between, some upright like little thrones, others tilted or upside down, adding a playful sway to the whole form. A tiny rock painted with the word "Imagine" leaned at its base, peeking out from the thyme like a secret. And then there was the quiet sculpture beneath the arbor, where morning filtered in softly through maple leaves. This one felt older, gentler, maybe, with blue willow prints and faded violets whispering stories. The ceramic surfaces caught the dappled light, flickering between shadow and shine, as if they too were watching the garden grow. Building them felt like stacking memories. Every cracked dish once a gift, every bowl once held laughter, now offering stillness and surprise. There's no wrong way to make one. Only balance. Only love. The garden welcomes the imperfect. It always has. If you ever find a stack of old plates no one wants, or a teacup too pretty to throw away, you might find magic waiting in your garden too. Just listen. The quiet corners are often calling. It's in the quietest corners where the cleverest ideas bloom. Along the edge of a suburban backyard, soft morning light spills over rows of miniature raised beds, each one lovingly outlined by old paint can lids. Upright and nestled shoulder to shoulder like tin petals, the lids form a scalloped embrace around the growing beds. Their colors are earthy and lived in terracotta blushes, weathered sage, sun-faded cream. Some still carry the ghost of their past, a drip of ochre, a faint barcode, a brand name half rubbed away. Inside, life thrives. Ruby-stemmed chard fans out proudly beside crisp romaine and a tangle of arugula with leaves that sway like dancers in the breeze. The soil is rich and dark, with straw scattered loosely like golden threads. A small wooden sign staked into the earth reads, "First harvest coming soon," and nearby, muddy boots rest beneath a garden bench, a quiet symbol of patience and pride. A little farther along, tucked into a curve of bark mulch, another bed glows with color and purpose. Here, silver and pastel paint lids, some powder blue, some softly yellowed, circle a patch where calendula, purple basil, and compact marigolds bloom together in harmony. A stake in the center simply says, "Pollinator Patch." The metal rims, once tossed aside, now shine gently in the light, shaped not just by rust and rain, but by care. They speak of hands that saw beauty in the overlooked. Beyond that, a narrow alley, perhaps once forgotten, is now alive with green. 4 raised beds line the stone path, each ringed with its own palette of paint lids, uneven but confident. One bed holds tall sunflowers reaching for the sky. Another teems with bush beans and bright nasturtiums curling over the edge. Young cabbage heads peek from another, while the last bed bears seedlings just beginning their journey. A calico cat naps nearby, curled in a patch of shade, and laundry flutters on a line above, shirts and socks dancing overhead like banners in celebration. There's something deeply comforting in this small, inventive space. Not polished or perfect, but personal, made with what was already at hand, turned into something rooted and beautiful. It's a reminder that gardens, like people, don't need to be grand to be full of grace. If you've got a handful of lids and a patch of soil, you're already halfway to something wonderful.